Hi there, everybody. Today, I'm excited to talk to you about friending and so much more. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Quote, "Ointment and perfume delight the heart, and the sweetness of a man's friend gives delight by hearty counsel." Close quote. That comes from Proverbs chapter 27, verse 9. In November 2009, the New Oxford American Dictionary announced its word of the year was unfriend. A verb, its definition is to remove someone as a friend on a social networking site such as Facebook. The word friend appears more than 50 times in the Bible, but nowhere does unfriend appear. The latter is a 21st century invention. When Facebook introduced the notion of friending, users piled on to see how many friends they could accumulate. The vast majority of those people were not friends at all, but pawns in a quest for status and popularity. This caused everyone to think afresh about what a friend is. It's a given that we all need good friends for their positive benefit in our life. Just as perfume delights the heart, Proverbs says, true friends delight the heart by their loyalty and wisdom. And just as the scent of a perfume is available to all who are near, so friendship should be available to all, especially to those who lack the comfort of closeness with others. Do you know someone who needs a good friend? Consider how you might share your wisdom and loyalty with that person and delight their heart. Well, my friends, I know many people who need a good friend, including myself. I'm blessed to have several good friends, and I'm also blessed to be in a position to where I am cultivating even more friendships, closer friendships. And I think that this ties into what, at least some of what we discussed last night at Bible study. And as I've talked about in past episodes of the show, there has been we've been studying the book of Ephesians. I haven't talked about what I was just about to say quite yet. But to provide some backstory and some context, we've been studying the book of Ephesians. And we have a study guide called, I don't know what it's called, honestly, but that's beside the point. It's an older book that's no longer in print, and it's written with that older style. Think Ozzie and Harriet. Leave It to Beaver. Conservative Christian of the late 50s. That's sort of where we're at with the book, and the most recent chapter that we read didn't sit well with many people, talking about the sin of television and certain types of clothing and things of that nature, and sexual deviance and the dangers of alcohol and addiction. And all of these things are valid. And I spoke up at some point during the conversation and said that this discussion that we were having of the Holy Spirit and have been having of the Holy Spirit, the discussion of God and the inclusion of God in our lives, this has been something that has been prevalent in the message from different people that I'm following on social media. Now, like we talked about in this book, which I forgot to mention is from the daily devotional Strength for Today by David Jeremiah, we read about friending and unfriending and the lure of social media, and how that word was introduced to the dictionary in 2009. 2008 was the year that I joined Facebook. 2009 was the year that I joined Twitter. I didn't become an active Twitter user until just a couple of years ago. I would post periodically, but I definitely became an active Facebook user, especially around the years 2012, 2013, 2014, as I began to get involved in all of these various permaculture and entrepreneurial circles. At that time, Facebook seemed like a good way to promote whatever it was that we were doing. And indeed it was. And in an effort to help promote each other and the work that we were doing, we befriended each other. All the groups that we were in, we were very strategic, and we interacted with Facebook in a very deliberate way in order to affect algorithms and promote the various content that we were all working on. In the process, and I've talked about this before, I was doing all of this without having any real sense or understanding of who I was, what I was doing, and more specifically, why. That led to burnout in roughly 2016. Change in my job at the day job. Just a number of things happening and kind of entering into a regrouping of sorts in 2017. So, as far as friends are concerned, and this notion of friending, we've become so wrapped up in social media and this online world, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for that, because there certainly is. And like we were talking last night in the group, one of the points I mentioned was the excess of some of these things, the overindulgence of the social media. It's a valuable tool, but it most certainly does not replace the actual real life interpersonal relationships that are to be had with friends, family, and your community. It's easy, though, to have that feeling as though you are part of something greater than yourself and that you are part of a community in these online forums and platforms. They're very effective at providing that dopamine fix in order to maintain engagement so that they can obtain data and provide the proper advertisements, because that's how they make their money, because most of these platforms are available to the user for free. But there really is nothing for free in this life except the relationship that is to be cultivated with God. That's available to us at no charge, but it requires work. And for some, it's not really that important to them. For me, there were years where that was not important either. I always maintained that I was spiritual but not religious. You know, I wasn't going to subscribe to those tenets and ideals of religion. No. I knew better than that. I was educated. So here we are, all these years later. I'm an active member of a local church. So active, as a matter of fact, that I was nominated to be the treasurer, and subsequently am on the council now as a voting member representing the congregation of the church. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go out and join a church and get involved and seek to become an elected member of council. I didn't seek this at all, okay? And that's the difference between, I think, someone like myself who finds themselves in a position of leadership, for lack of a better term, versus someone like a politician who seeks that position of leadership. I don't understand politics, but I digress. That social media interactions, we're not accustomed and we're very ignorant to the impact that some of these things are having on our life. It was only 2009 where that word was introduced to the dictionary, and that was 12 years ago. We've been engaged in various social media platforms for 15 years, give or take, internet forums for longer than that. As a matter of fact, I was posting on an internet forum this morning because I prefer that in many ways over the social media platform. I was posting on Permies.com. If you're interested in permaculture and homesteading, all things, all the time, check out Permies.com. And I was sharing some content there, a few things that I had written, a couple pictures. So I'm certainly not opposed to online interaction, but when we become dependent on that for the interactions that we have with one another, and then we utilize that as a replacement, we're going to experience some problems. And I think we already are. And I think that because society is evolving into what it is, I believe firmly that that is in large part why this virus is having such a dramatic impact. We are comfortable with being locked down. We can have all the creature comforts that we normally have access to, want, but not need. We have access to it all from the comfort of our own homes. We can stream our church services online. We can have our food delivered. We can have Amazon bring packages to our door. Oftentimes, we can work remotely from home. We can have Zoom calls. And on top of that, we can complain about everything on Facebook. Or blame people for the problems on Twitter. I suppose that happens on all social media platforms. But the impact that this is having on our society as people is beyond measure. And one of the things that we don't spend enough time talking about is the lack of a cultivated relationship with God. So, my friends, as you engage in dialogue with your family and your friends, I would challenge you to have a discussion with everyone about their relationship with God, social media, its impact on life, and everything else for that matter. Well, all right, that's it for today's episode, my friends. If you would like to get routine updates on the show or about the show, you can sign up on Telegram for the broadcast channel only at t.me/allaroundgrowthpodcast. I will drop messages there every time a new podcast episode is dropped or there is new content available for viewing. If you want to participate in a group chat with fellow audience members who are on a similar path, just like yourself, then join the community over on Telegram. Got a cool chat group there, t.me/allaroundgrowth. And at this time, about half of our podcast listeners utilize the Apple Podcast platform. And it looks like that may be changing. But if you are an Apple Podcasts user, there's a link in the show notes just for you on how to leave a rating and review in the Apple Podcast app. That is highly encouraged because, like we spoke about before, the algorithms definitely have an impact on who sees what, where, and when. And if this show is of value to you and you want to help spread the word about it to others, please leave a rating and review in the show notes, or by following the link in the show notes. That will detail out the easiest and best way to do that. If you're not an Apple Podcast user, leave a rating in your podcast player of choice, or just share it on social media. Spread the word. Let's get the word out there about the show. Try and grow the audience and connect with as many people as we can who are trying to cultivate and build and develop genuine human relationships in order to build a more healthy, positive, and beneficial world. There's also links in the show notes for all episodes. And if you have any questions or feedback for me, you can email me at allaroundgrowth@gmail.com, or you can join the community at t.me/allaroundgrowth. As you can hear, it's raining out, and I am going to shut it down and take a brisk walk inside. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much for listening. I sincerely appreciate it. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.